Pure Mathematics 2022 Advanced Level. The point P minus 2 minus 5 lies on the curve with equation y equals to f of x. Find the point to which P is mapped when the curve with equation y equals to f of x is transformed to the curve with equation. So part A, f of x plus 2. So I've put here some different types of transformations which you can have a look at. When you add A, this is the one we're going to use. When you add A to f of x, it's a vertical translation of plus A. That's the one we're going to use for that, for part A. So these are the different types, and it will help you to answer some of the questions. So for part A, the plus 2 only affects the minus 5, the y section. So it's minus 5 plus 2, and that gives you minus 3. So f of x plus A is a vertical translation. So the answer would be minus 2 minus 3. For part B, the two straight lines, the absolute lines, it means whatever you put for x, the output has to be positive. So the output, what comes out, if you put x is minus 5, what comes out will be positive. So very, very important. So what will happen is the minus 2 will stay the same, but the 5, which was minus, will go up and become positive. So you will get minus 2 and plus 5. Minus 2 and plus 5. So with this one, there's 3 things. So we have to build up the solution in stages. There's a minus 2 inside the bracket there. There's a times 3 outside there. And there's another add 2 there. So let's start with inside, add 2. This add 2, we add it but to the x. The opposite of minus 2 is add 2. We do the opposite when it's inside the bracket. The opposite of minus 2, we add 2 to x. So that would be 2. We add 2 to x. So x is minus 2. We add minus 2 plus 2. It gives us 0. So our x is now 0. And we start with minus 2, minus 5. After we've added 2 to x, we multiply by 3. So this is where we start. Minus 2, minus 5. We add 2 to x. We get 0, minus 5. And then we multiply by 3 times 3. 3 times the 0 is 0. 3 times minus 5, it gives you minus 15. And then after that, we add the 2 to the minus 15. Minus 15 plus 2, it gives you minus 13. So your final answer is 0 minus 13. 0 minus 13. So that's the final answer, 0 minus 13. So it says, given that x plus 2 is a factor, find the value of k. So using the factor theorem, if x plus 2 is a factor, you take plus 2 to the right, it becomes minus 2. That means x equals to minus 2. What we want to do, we substitute x with minus 2. So wherever we see x, we put minus 2. So the minus 2 goes there, it goes there, it goes there. And we make it equal to 0 and solve it. So have the minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. And you simplify all of that. Minus 2, minus 4, it gives you minus 6. And when you simplify all of that, you will get k to be minus 17. So your final, you can still write the equation fully like this. replacing the k inside with minus 17. So you don't have to do this in an exam, but I've just plotted the cubic graph so you can see there where it passes at 2, minus 2. So x is minus 2. You see that point there? That's minus 2, one of the roots. Question number 3, we have the equation of a circle given in the expanded form. We want to find the center and the radius. So I have put here, that's the general formula for equation of a circle. And we can use this expanded form and this center and this radius. We can use those 3 formulae if you can memorize them and apply them. So what we want to do is the x squared is the x squared, y squared the same y squared. 2f is the same as minus 10. So 2f is equals to minus 10. So f would be minus 5. You divide by 2. And 2g is equals to 16 and g is equals to 8. 16 divided by 2. And c is equals to minus 80. Now we can, the center says minus f minus g. So minus 5 and then g is 8 minus 8. That's one way to get it. There's another way to do that. Another way you can do the radius, you write down the formula, f squared plus g squared minus c. What is f? F is minus 5. Minus 5 squared plus 8 squared minus 80. Put down your calculator, you get the radius to be 13. So we got the center and the radius. Let's look at another way to do it if you cannot remember those formulae. Another way to do it is by completing the square. So let's deal with the x squared and the minus 10x. You put them together. You find half of that 10 is 5. So x minus 5 squared, you will get x squared minus 10x plus 25. If you notice the x squared and the x squared are the same, the minus 10 and the minus 10 the same, what is excess is this plus 25. So we have to remove this plus 25. That's why we put minus 25 there, the excess. We do the same with y squared and 16y. We find half of 16, we get 8. When we square that, we get this expression. The excess is plus 64. So we have to remove the excess. That's why we moved minus 64. So the same thing is this one is the same like the top one, but we remove the minus 64 minus 25 minus 64, which we take minus 25 to the right, minus 64 to the right. We add all of them with 80, it becomes 169. So the center is the 5. Because it's minus 5, we will use plus 5. It's plus 8, we will use minus 8. So the center is 5 minus 8. The radius is square root of this 169, which is 13. So I think most students prefer this way to do it, because the first method, you have to memorize those formulae. We want to find the exact length of O to P. If you look at the diagram there, we have to go from O to C, where C is the center. We have to go from O to C and then from C to P. So O to C, we can use Pythagoras and work out 5 squared plus 8 squared. It gives you, and then square root of 89. And then to go from C, the center, to P, which is 13. So it's going to be square root of 89 plus 13. And that's the answer for that one. Square root of 89 plus 13. And that's the exact value. The question number 4. Express the limit as delta x, delta. That's what that symbol is, delta x. It starts from 2.1, goes up to 6.3 as an integral. So that means you write it with integral sign from 2.1 to 6.3. So what you're doing, you're finding the area from 2.1 to 6.3. So when you want to integrate the 2, this is like 2 times 1 over x. So the 2 can come out of the integral sign, and then you have to integrate 1 over x. When you integrate 1 over x, it's ln x. So you need to just memorize that. Integral of 1 over x dx is ln x. Now you put the limits from 6.3 to 2.1. So 6.3 divided by 2.1, it gives you 3. And the 2 comes to the top there, it becomes 3 squared. So it becomes ln 9. So when you subtract 2 logs, you divide the numbers. That's very important. So to check that our answer is correct, we would integrate from 2.1 up to 6.3, 2 divided by x, and then the answer will be 2.197. And when you press ln 9, the answer is 2.197. So it shows that we have done it correctly. So integral is finding the area under the graph. So what we're doing with this question is you put 2 over x in the graphics calculator, change the view window so that you can see it clearly, and it goes from 0 up to 7. You will see we are finding this area I have shaded there. So what integration is doing is finding that little shaded area. That's question number 5. So what we do, we write the equation h squared equals to at plus b. We substitute 2.60 meters after 2 years, and that will give us the first equation. And then after that, we substitute 5.10, and after 10 years, and that will give us the second equation. So what we want to do now is to solve those 2 equations simultaneously. And if you put that in your calculator, you would get A to be 2.41 and B to be 1.95. And I've shown you pictures of how you put them in the calculator here. So 5 squared would be 26.01, 2.0 squared would be that, and then A is 2, number in front of B is 1, the number in front of A there is 10, the number in front of B there is 1. So the calculator will give you those 2 answers, and that will be your equation. H squared equals to 2.41t plus 1.95. Given that the height of the tree was 7 meters, exactly 20 years after being planted, evaluate the model giving reasons for your answer. So we got that equation. We substitute t equals to 20, and it gives us 7.08 meters. And 7.08 meters, and you have to state that it is a good model, as that is very close to the answer of 7 meters. So our answer 7.08 is very close to that 7 meters, not much different. Question number 6. Figure 1 shows a sketch of a curve y equals to f of x, where f of x is a cubic expression in x. For part A, write down the set of values of x for which f of x is less than 0. F dash of x, where dy over dx is less than 0. So if you look at that pink section there, the gradient is negative where it's coming down. It cannot be at 2 because the gradient at 2 is 0. It's a turning point. It cannot be at 6. The gradient at 6 is 0. It's a turning point. So it is between 2 and 6. So x is between 2 and 6. It cannot be equal to 2 or 6 as the gradient at those points are 0. So that's a very important point to take. So this is how you write the answer. 2 less than x less than 6. For part B, we have the equation y equals to k intersects C at only 1 point. Very important, 1 point. So imagine that line y intersects only at only 1 point. Find the set of values of k. So if you look at this line where k is bigger than 8, any line which is above this y equals to 8 line there, say for example y equals to 9, it only has 1 point of intersection there. If say y is equals to 6, you put it there, it has 1, 2, 3. At y equals to 8 exactly, it has 1, 2, because the y value there is 8. It has 1, 2. So for it to have just 1, y has to be bigger than 8. Or k, which is the thing, it has to be bigger than 8. And underneath, at this point, it touches at 6 there. There's 2 answers. So for it, if it's less than 0, it touches at only 1 point. Say, for example, y equals to -2, it touches at, say, 1 point. So it has to be less than 0. If it's -1, so if it's 1, 1, 2, 3 points. So k has to be bigger than 8 so that it touches at 1 point. Union, k has to be smaller than 0 so that it touches at only 1 point. So that's how you write it in set notation. You put the curly brackets with the 2 dot, which means k, such that k is bigger than 8. Curly bracket close, union, curly bracket open, k, such that k is less than 0, and curly bracket closed. For part C, find the equation of the curve C. You may leave your answer in factorized form. Want to find the equation of this curve. From that curve, this is what we can deduce. It's a positive cubic curve because it goes from the bottom left to the top right. It's like that. It goes up from the bottom left to the top right. It's a positive cubic curve. There's a solution at 0 because it passes through 0. So we put one of them as x. And then 2 solutions at 6 because it touches at that point. So we have x minus 6 squared. And then it could be any multiple. So we just use a multiplier for k. So we can write the equation as k times x minus 6 squared. The x because it goes through the origin. The x minus 6 squared because it touches this 0.6 twice. It touches the 0.6. Now we want to find the value for k. We use that maximum point 2.8. Sub in 8 for y and 2 for x. And we simplify this, we'll get 32. So k is given by, k is 8/32, which is 1/4. So this is the equation for that curve. So this is the answer for the equation. In yellow there, k is 1/4, and that's the curve passes through 0, and that's the maximum point, and that's where it touches at the point. Question number 7a, or 7 part 1. Given that p and q are integers such that pq is even, use algebra to prove by contradiction that at least one of p or q is even. So we want to set up a contradiction. There exist integers p and q such that pq is even and both p and q are odd. So for example, let's pick p is equals to 2m plus 1. 2m is an even number, plus 1 is an odd number, give an odd number. Let's pick the next one. Q is 2n. 2n is a different even number, plus 1, it gives you an odd number. and then we multiply out the double brackets. We get 4n plus 2n plus 2n plus 1. And then we need to factorize. There's 2 here, there's 2 here, there's 2 here. 2 comes out of the bracket. 2 times this thing there. Anything multiplied by 2 is an even number. And when you add 1, it gives you an odd number. So we state that this is odd, giving a contradiction. So if PQ is even, then at least one of P or Q is even. Given that X and Y are integers such that X is less than 0, X plus Y squared is less than 9X squared plus Y. Show that Y is greater than 4X. So let's expand this X plus Y. That gives us X squared plus 2XY plus Y squared. We subtract Y from both sides. We end up with 2XY. We take X squared to the right. It becomes 9X squared minus X squared gives you 8X squared. We divide by 2 and by X. So we have Y is less than 4X. But this is not correct because X is less than 0. It says that X is less than 0. So if you were to multiply by minus 1, X is less than 0, you would have 2Y would be bigger than 8X. So Y is bigger than 4X. So the question says X is less than 0. So when we take this X is less than 0, we divide by minus X because X is less than 0. So it's a negative. It is not 0, it's a negative because it's less than 0. So when you divide by a negative X, divide by negative X, divide by negative X, you flip this sign from less than to greater than. And then after that, you divide by 2, divide by 2. So you get Y is greater than 4X. Question number 8. We want to find the value of T that would make it when the Fed leaves the set of traffic lights, and that's when it's equal to 0. So either this first bracket is equals to 0 or this second bracket is equals to 0. That's how you solve it. So let's start with the first bracket equals to 0. 10 minus 4T equals to 0. Minus 4 goes to the right. 10 equals to 0.4T. And 10 divided by 0.4, it gives you 25. So T is equals to 25. For the next one, we have ln T plus 1 equals to 0. You can write it as log to the base E T plus 1 equals to 0. That E is looking at that 0 there. So E to the power 0 is equals to T plus 1. E to the power 0 is 1. So it becomes 1 minus 1 is 0. So T is equals to 0. So T equals to 25 and T equals to 0. Those are the values. So this T would be 25. So if you plot that on the graphics calculator, you put the expression for there and change the scale on the window, you would see at T equals to 0, and that point there is 25. You can see there it says X is 25. That point there is 25. That's how you check the answer with the graphics calculator. For the maximum speed, we have to differentiate to get that. And we have two things multiplied to each other. So we use the product rule. Call that first one U, call that one V. So what we want to do is we want to differentiate using the product rule. So we got U there, 10 minus 0.4T. When you differentiate 10, you get 0. You differentiate minus 0.4T, you get minus 0.4. V is equals to ln T plus 1. When you differentiate that, you get 1 over T plus 1. So now we write down the product rule and sub in the details. So we have V is ln t plus 1, du is minus 0.4. U is that, and dv is 1 over t plus 1. So make dv over dt is equals to 0. So we want to put that equals to 0 and start to rearrange it. So after we differentiate, we make it equals to 0. And then we take the minus 0.4 to the right-hand side, it becomes plus. Now this is where we have to rearrange it to get the answer. So what we want to do with t plus 1 on the denominator, we take it to the right and multiply it. Now we can remove the bracket. 0.4 ln t plus 1 times t. It gives you 0.4 t ln t plus 1, and we multiply by 1. So expand the bracket, we get those two. Now we divide everything by 0.4. So it gives you 25 minus t equals to t ln t plus 1 plus ln t plus 1. You look at the answer, they want you to rearrange it in a particular way. So what you want to do now is you want to take minus t to the right and take ln t plus 1 to the left. So you got that 25 minus ln t plus 1. You factorize t for this one. T will come out. It's ln t plus 1 plus 1. So t will be given that expression. But that's not quite what they want us to get. So we need to change it again. These are some mathematical skills. Because we want 26, we can have, we got 25 there. We can do 26 minus 1. It gives us 25. 26 minus 1 is the same as 25. So we replace 25 with 26 minus 1. Now 1 is the same as 1 times 1. And ln t plus 1 is the same as 1 times ln t plus 1. So now we got 26. We factorize, there's 1 here and there's 1 here. So we take minus 1 out and make sure the inside is plus. So go 1 plus ln t plus 1. And the denominator stays the same. Now we've got the 26. It's like two fractions. So one fraction, we split it into 2. So we can have 26 over that, and then the ln that divided by the ln divided by the ln. So 26 over ln 1 plus ln t plus 1, and then 1 plus ln t plus 1 divided by 1 plus ln t plus 1. And this will cancel out to make 1. So that's what they wanted you to show. Another way to do it, to show that they are equivalent, so another way to show it is you start with the fraction and you subtract them to get to that one. For part C, you put n equals to 1, and we know t1 is 7. So you substitute 7 for t1, and you get this answer there, and that gives you t2. Now you put n equals to 2, you substitute the answer for t2, and that gives you the answer for t3. So that's t2 and that's t3. And you do that in the calculator, you get the first answer. You use the answer in the calculator and then press repeat, and then it gives you the next answer, until you get to 7.33. So for the car to reach maximum speed, we use repeated iterations until you get to 7.33 seconds. Repeated iterations for the car to reach maximum speed. That's the maximum there, and that's 7.33. So you use repeated iterations on the calculator like that until you get to 7.33. That's question number 9. So question number 9, I want to show that PQRS is a rhombus. So we want to find PQ first. So do 2 squared plus 3 squared plus minus 4 squared. It gives you square root of 29. And QR, 5 squared plus 2 squared is square root of 29. So since PQ is equals to QR, so PQRS is a rhombus. So that's how you do part A. You find the magnitude of QR, magnitude of PQ, and they're the same. PQ and QR are the same, so it's a rhombus. That's the formula to find the area of a rhombus or a kite. Half times this distance A times that distance B. So all we need to do is find that distance A and find that distance B and multiply it by half to get the area of the rhombus. So we can find PR. We can write it like this. PR is 3 minus 4 plus 5, 0 minus 2. That gives us PR. Which is PR is to go from P to R, you go from P to Q plus Q to R. And that gives you PR. QS is minus PQ plus PS. That gives you the answer there. And the area of that rhombus is half times PR times QS. And that gives you square root of 57. So over here, I've shown you how to find PR. The magnitude of PR, 7 squared, 3 squared, 6 squared gives you 94. And then QS, underneath there, to get QS, you go minus PQ, you write that down, plus minus QR, minus PQ, minus QR, and then you got that form. So there's some information about a rhombus. All 4 sides are equal. So if these 2 sides are equal, that means it's a rhombus. Opposite sides are parallel. Opposite sides are parallel. Opposite angles are equal. Angles are equal. Diagonals are perpendicular and bisect each other. That's 90 degrees there. And adjacent angles add up to 180. This angle and this angle add up to 180. These two. So question number 10. So question number 10, find the number of bees at the start of the study. So at the start, T is equals to 0. Whenever I say start, put T equals to 0. Sometimes they might say initial. So put T, time is 0 in there. It will be e to the power 0, which will be 1. So you have 220 plus 45. It gives you 265. For part B, you want to find dn over dt. So because the word is rate. Rate has to do with time, how the time changes and number changes. So when you differentiate that, you differentiate 45, you get 0. You differentiate e to the 0.05t. You differentiate the numerator, 0.05t, you get 0.05. You multiply by that. 220 stays the same, and then e to the 0.05t. And when you multiply that, you get 11 e to the 0.05t. And when t is 10 years, put t is 10. So e to the 0.05 times 10, it gives you 18.13, which is approximately 18,000 per year. So for part C, find the value of t to 2 decimal places. So we have NB, we have NW. We have 2 things, one in the yellow, one in the blue there, or purple. Now we put them equal to each other. The left side, the right side. So we take everything to the left. We take the 10 to the left. It becomes 45. Take away 10 is 35. We take the 800 e to the minus 0.05t to the left. It becomes minus that. So we have that equation. The way to solve it, you multiply each one by e to the 0.05t. So you multiply that one by 0.05t, multiply that one by e to the 0.05t, and the same there. So you multiply all of them by the same thing. When you multiply that, this one will double, so you have e to the 0.05t squared. And then you have 35 e to the 0.05t. And for the 800, this would cancel with each other. So you just have 800. So you have a quadratic where e to the 0.05t is x, and that is x. Solve the quadratic in your calculator, you get x is 1.89 minus 1.89. That's the two answers there. So you replace the x with e to the 0.05t equals to 1.829. To solve it for t, you put ln in front of both of them, and then that comes in front. So 0.05t ln e is equal to ln 1.829. Ln e is 1 in the calculator, and then you divide by 0.05, that you get t is 12. If you use the negative, you cannot solve it because you cannot find log of a negative number. So t is 12.08. Question number 11. To do question 11, they've said that x equals to a half. So we take that half, substitute it in there. So you get half cubed, it gives us 41/4. So that's what they want you to show in there. The curves intersect again at P. Use algebra showing all stages of your work in the exact x coordinate of P. So we have the left side and the right side. These two curves intersect. So there's two curves, 1, 2. So we put everything to one side. So we could take 15, minus 15 goes to the right. It becomes plus 15x squared. Plus 42, x goes to the right. It becomes minus 42. And then minus 7 goes to the right. Plus 10, it becomes 17. All of that equals to 0. So now we want to deduce, we have to deduce that 2x minus 1 is a factor because we had x equals to a half. We take 2 to the right, it becomes 2x. Take plus 1 to the right, to the left, it becomes 2x minus 1. So 2x minus 1 is a factor. And we do long division. 2x cubed divided by 2x, it gives you x squared. X squared times 2x, 2x cubed. You subtract x squared times minus 1 minus x squared. So when you subtract 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is 0. 15x squared minus x squared. The minus and minus becomes a plus, so it becomes 16x squared. 16 divided by 2 is 8, and x squared divided by x is x. So 8x times 2x, 16x squared. 8x times minus 1 minus 8x. Bring down the 42x. You subtract 16x minus 16x squared is 0. And 42x minus 42 minus 8. The minus and minus becomes a plus. So because minus 42 plus 8 is minus 34x. Bring down the 17. 34 divided by 2 is 17. 17 times 2x is 34x. Minus 17 times 1 plus 17. You subtract minus 34 minus 34 is 0. And 17 minus 34, 17 is 0. So your answer is x squared plus 8x minus 17. And you can factorize that using quadratic formula. So you have 2x minus 1 and x squared plus 8x minus 17, which you put in the quadratic formula, you get minus 4 plus square root of 33. But because they want x to be greater than 0, that's why we use that one. So if you plot the graphs 1, 2, red and blue, you will see where they meet there. X is 1.744, where they intersect. Question number 12. To integrate, we're going to use integration by parts. So integration by parts, we want to have u to be ln x, and du over dx is 1 over ln x. dv is x cubed, and v is x4 to the power, x to the power 4 divided by 4. And you write down the integration by parts formula. You put u times v, that's v there, and that's u there, minus integral of v times du over dx. X to the 4 divided by x, it gives you x cubed. And now you can easily integrate x cubed. When you integrate x cubed, you get x to the 4 over 4. And then you now substitute the limit from 1 to e2, e squared. So you can start by factorizing to make it easier. You can take x to the 4 over 4 out of the bracket, and then sub in e squared. Then after that, you sub in 1. So from there, you will simplify to get that expression there. You check if your answer is correct. You put that your answer in the calculator. It gives you 1,304.23. And if you get the calculator to get the answer for you, it gives you 1,304.23. These two answers are the same. That means your integral method was correct. And that's how you check your answer in an exam. Question number 13. We want to show that that's the formula for the sum of the n terms. So the first thing you do, you list, the first one is a, second one is a plus d, third one is a plus 2d. You list them all to the nth one. And then sum of n. So a plus n minus 1d, a plus n minus 2d, a plus 2d, and so you write this in reverse. You start from the biggest going down. And then you add equation 1 and equation 2. The two sums. So Sn, what you have, when you add them, you will get n times 2 plus 2a plus n minus 1d. And then you divide by 2, you get that expression. In part 2, 10 pounds is a, 9 pounds 20 is a plus d, and 8 pounds 40 is a plus 2d. So the difference, 8 pounds 40 minus 9 pounds 20, or 9 pounds 20 minus 10, difference is 80 pence or 0.8. Now you can substitute those values. 2 times a is 10, so 2 times 10 is 20, plus n minus 1d is 0.8, minus 0.8, and then we don't know n. And we solve it, we'll get that quadratic. And we solve the quadratic, we'll get n is 10 and n is 16. State the number of weeks James takes to save money enough to buy the printer. 10 weeks with a reason. He has saved up the amount by 10 weeks, so he would not save for another 6 weeks. So you can see 10 there. If you put the graph, that's the graph you put in the calculator. Use that scale so that you can see it. And you see 10 there. Below that, it goes to the negatives. Question 14. We start by expand this So imagine the 2 is outside each of them. Use the compound angle formula to expand that, and then expand the right-hand side. And then from there now, we would use the calculator. Cos 60 is a half. Sin 60 is equal to 3/2. Cos 30 is equal to 3/2. Sin 30 is a half. Put those numbers to simplify it to the next stage. And then the next thing now is we put half sine to the left and take the root 3 cos to the right. We factorize 1 minus a half because sine x comes out of the bracket. So times 1 minus half. And then root 3 cos x comes out of the bracket, and then you have half plus 1. So 1 minus a half is a half, and then half plus 1 is 1.5, which is 3/2. And you can multiply by 2 to get rid of those 2. And then you divide by cos x to get sin x over cos x is 3/3. And sin x over cos x is 3/3, which is tan x. That's tan x then. Hence is what we're going to use. Solve that equation there. So we have 2 sine 2 theta cos 2 theta times with 3/2. So what we want to do, we multiply each one by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2. That gets rid of this 2 in the denominator. So 2 times 2 in the first one gives you 4. 4 sine 2 theta is equal to 3 cos 2 theta minus sine 2 theta. Take the minus sine 2 theta to the left, it becomes plus. 4 plus 1 sine 2 theta gives you 5 sine 2 theta. Now you divide both sides by cos 2 theta. So that gives you tan 2 theta is 3/5. So 2 theta is inverse tangent of 3/5, which is 19.1066. Tangent repeats every 180 degrees. So you add 180, you get 199. And then you divide by 2, you get 9.55. And then you do theta is 199.106 divided by 2. It gives you 99.55. So those are the two answers, 9.6 and 99.6. Hence, to otherwise solve. So giving your answers to one decimal place, we can deduce that x is 2 theta plus 60 degrees. And when we solve that, we'll get those two answers there. So it's the same thing that we've just done. 9.6 and 99.6 degrees. That's a way to look at it. Another way to look at x minus 60 is the same as 2 theta. So 2 theta is the same as x minus 60. So x would be 2 theta plus 60 because you take the minus 60 to that side. And then 2 theta plus 30 is equals to 2 theta plus 30 equals to x minus 30. So 2 theta plus 30 equals x minus 30. That gives x to be 2 theta plus 60. And then, so tan x is 3/3. So tan 2 theta plus 60 has to be equal to the 3/3 because that's the same as the x. So 2 theta plus 60 inverse tangent of 3/3. And when you solve that, you get 9.6 and 99.6 degrees. Question number 15. For number 15, we have to shade that area there in yellow. So the area is 0.4 r squared. So very important to get that part. And then, so the volume is the area times the length. V equals to A times L. I remember it as Valentine's. Volume is area times length. The area of the yellow part times the height. volume is area of the yellow part times the height, which you can put in the half r squared times 0.8 h is equal to 240. We rearrange it to get h to be 600 over r squared. Total surface area is the area for this side, r times h. There's two of them, that's why we times by 2, the front and the back. Plus 0.8 times r squared plus 0.8 RH, which is that part there. So we substitute for h. We want to replace h in that formula. Replace h and replace h then. So it becomes 2r times 600 over r squared plus 0.8 r squared plus 0.8 r times 600 over r squared. So there's no more h. We have replaced the h. And when we rearrange it and simplify that, we will get that total surface area. Part B says use algebraic differentiation. So we differentiate 0.8 r squared, you get 1.6. 2 times 0.8 is 1.6 r. You differentiate 1,680 r to the minus 1. You bring minus 1 in front, and then you minus 1 again, so it'll be r squared underneath. ds over dr equals to 0. When you put that equal to 0, you would multiply by r squared, multiply by r squared, multiply by r squared, multiply by r squared. So that'll be r cubed. So you take minus 1680 to the right and divide by 1.6, and then you find the cube root. You get r to be 10.2. So you differentiate the second time, you get that expression. And when you put 10.2 for r, the answer is bigger than 0, so it's a minimum value for s. So when you differentiate the second time, it's bigger than 0, it's a minimum. When it's less than 0, it's a maximum. Try and memorize that. Question number 16. So x is equals to 8 sine squared t, and 4 is equals to 8 sine squared t. So it's like square root of 4 over 8 is equals to sine t. So t is inverse sine of square root of 4 over 8. I'll show you in details how we do that one to change it. So these are the formulae that we need for this question. I'll circle this one in green there. Y of t times dx over dt. The same thing, y of t, x dash is dx over dt. That gives you that area. So if y times dx over dt, and then you integrate. So x is equals to 8 sine t all squared. When we differentiate that dx over dt, we get 8 times 2 sine t cos t. 2 comes in front, so 2 times 8. You differentiate with respect to sine t differentiate, I get cos t. So we can write it as 2 sine 2t plus 3 sine t times 16 sine t cos t. 2 sine t cos t is sine 2t. So now, if we remove the bracket, 16 times 2 is 32. So it's 32 sine 2t sine t cos t. Plus 16 times 3 is 48 sine squared t cos t. If you notice, they're the same. So 2 sine t cos t, we want to make it like 8 minus 8 cos 4t plus 48 sine squared t cos t. So what we have here is, we've got to be very careful now as we move along, because you can easily make a mistake. So what we want to do is, we got sine t, there, and then we have 48 sine squared t cos squared t plus 64 plus 48 sine squared t cos squared t. But what is cos 2t is 1 minus sine squared t. That's very important part there. So what we're trying to do now, sine squared 2t is the same as sine 2t times sine 2t. And sine 2t is 2 sine t cos t. Sine 2t is 2 sine t cos t. So where we have 2 times 2 times 2, it gives you 8. So 1 minus 8 sine squared and cos squared. So we have 8 times 8 gives us 64. And that's where we got 64 sine squared cos squared. Cos 4t, very important, is 1 minus 8 sine squared t cos squared t. So 8 sine squared t cos squared t is 1 minus cos 4t. And from there now, we can rearrange it to have 8 bracket 1 minus cos 4t, which we can remove the brackets. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times cos 4t, 8 cos 4t, plus that. It says, hence use algebraic integration. So you integrate that. When you integrate 8, you get 8t. When you integrate 8 cos 4t, you get 2 sine 4t. Integrate that, you get 16 sine cube t. And then the limits are from 0 to pi over 4. So you substitute pi over 4, work out the answers, and then you substitute 0, you work out the answer, and that gives you 2 pi plus 4 root 2. So congratulations for getting this far. This question wasn't easy, it was quite long. Congratulations, you've done it.